Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters of Africa, and friends from every corner of the globe watching this broadcast, what you are about to hear tonight is not just news. It is not just another story of politics, economics, or environmental change. It is a revelation, a moment in history where the impossible has been made possible. A story so audacious, so breathtaking, that it will force the world to rethink what it truly means to transform a nation's destiny. For today we pull back the curtain on an achievement that the West said could never happen, an act they mocked as nothing more than a dream, yet it now stands as one of the most extraordinary feats of our time. Burkina Faso, and they once dismissed as poor, landlocked, and dependent, is suddenly at the center of an unprecedented transformation, and at the heart of it stands one man, Captain Ibrahim. But tonight we will not speak of him as just a military leader, a president, or a revolutionary. Tonight we will speak of him as an architect of miracles, a man who looked at an ordinary forest and somehow turned it into pure gold. Not figuratively, not symbolically. We are talking about tangible, measurable, undeniable wealth extracted not from mines, but from the living breath of nature itself. You see, the world has always told us that Africa's riches lie beneath the ground in the oil, the minerals, the diamonds, the gold deposits that foreign companies rush to exploit. But what happens when a leader refuses to bow to that old narrative? What happens when, instead of digging down, he dares to look up and around, seeing value where no one else saw it? Tonight you will learn that this forest, once seen as nothing more than trees and wildlife, became a vault of endless wealth in the hands of a visionary. And the way it happened will leave you stunned. This is not some vague promise of green economy talk. No, this is real, with figures, with trade deals, with industries already running and billions of dollars already changing hands. This transformation has shaken global markets, baffled Western economists, and forced powerful nations to question how one African country, without begging for loans, without signing away its resources, could create a new stream of wealth that rivals their entire annual exports. And here's the part they don't want you to hear. This wasn't just about economics. This was about freedom. Freedom from the claws of debt. Freedom from the manipulation of aid. Freedom from the humiliating terms that have chained African nations for generations. Captain Forest into Gold strategy is not just an environmental victory. It is a declaration of sovereignty, a bold statement that Africa will no longer be told what it can or cannot do. In just 2 years, this plan has taken an untouched stretch of forest and transformed it into a self-sustaining economic engine. No foreign ownership, no IMF control, no Western shareholders taking 80% of the profits. The forest has been turned into a center of processing industries, herbal medicine exports, rare plant extractions, ecotourism hubs, and a renewable energy grid that powers entire communities. And my friends, the world is shocked because this model can be replicated across Africa, threatening the monopoly the West has held on global wealth for centuries. But tonight, you will hear not only the what but the how. You will hear about the secret deals with indigenous communities that made them shareholders, not victims. You will learn about the discovery of rare botanicals in the forest worth more per kilogram than gold itself. You will understand why Western corporations, desperate to buy these resources, were shut out entirely. And you will see why this plan, if copied across the continent, could generate $1 trillion of African wealth without ever drilling a single oil well or opening a single foreign-owned mine. So I urge you, do not look away. Do not think this is just another headline. Because in this story lies the blueprint for African liberation, a method so ingenious, so rooted in our own soil, that no outsider can steal it without our consent. Stay with us as we unravel the shocking truth of how Captain Ibrahim turned a forest into gold. The time for Africa's awakening is not tomorrow, it is now. And tonight, you will witness the beginning of a new era.
Welcome to Talk of Africa 360, your source for insightful news, analysis, and thoughtful commentary. If you value informed perspectives and fact-based reporting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is based on reliable public sources and credible online information. It is intended strictly for educational and analytical purposes. We do not promote or endorse political violence, hate speech, or any form of discrimination. Our goal is to inform, not to inflame. Thanks for being here. Let's stay informed together.
My fellow Africans, brothers and sisters across the world, today, I stand before you with a story so extraordinary that if it were told by the old colonial tongues, they would call it a fable, a myth, a thing of imagination. But I tell you here, with clarity and conviction, this is no myth. This is our reality. This is the Africa they never thought would rise. And at the heart of this story is one man, a man who has refused to bow, refused to be bought, and refused to be silenced. Captain Ibrahim Traore. We are in a time when the whole world is watching Africa. The West is restless, their corporations shifting uneasily, their governments whispering in backrooms, their media throwing accusations like stones in the dark. Why? Because something is happening in the heart of our continent that they never prepared for. Burkina Faso, a land they once dismissed as poor, is doing something that even the richest nations could never dream, turning its forests into gold. And no, I do not speak of fairy tales where leaves become coins. I speak of a vision so daring, so revolutionary, that it is already rewriting the economic map of Africa. It began quietly. While others were distracted by the noise of global politics, Captain Traore was planting seeds, both in the soil and in the minds of his people. He saw what many leaders refused to see, that the wealth of Africa is not buried under the ground alone. It breathes in our forests, it grows in our trees, it whispers through our rivers, and it waits patiently for leaders brave enough to unleash it. They told him it was impossible. They laughed when he said that the forest could produce more wealth than a gold mine. They scoffed when he insisted that nature, when respected and understood, could feed a nation, power its industries, and fund its armies without a single ounce of debt from the IMF or the World Bank. But Traore did not come to beg for validation from those who have stolen from Africa for centuries. He came to work, and work he did. The plan was simple in vision but monumental in execution. Protect the forests, study them, harvest their natural abundance sustainably, and transform that abundance into industries that would feed, clothe, and empower every Burkinabe. He brought together biologists, engineers, herbalists, farmers, and young entrepreneurs from every corner of Burkina Faso. They mapped the forests, identifying rare plants with medicinal properties more valuable than gold, fruits with export potential that could rival any global market, and timber that, if harvested wisely, could build cities without destroying the land. In the first year, they planted over 50 million trees. In the second year, they built processing plants, not foreign-owned factories that ship raw resources overseas, but homegrown industries where Africans worked the machines, refined the products, and shipped them under African-owned brands. The results were staggering. From the forests came medicinal oils that fetched thousands of dollars per liter in global markets. From the fruits came juices, dried exports, and luxury products that began appearing in shops from Nairobi to New York. From sustainably managed timber came furniture, construction materials, and design exports that began to replace expensive imports in African cities. Within 3 years, the revenue from these forest industries rivaled Burkina Faso's traditional gold exports. But it wasn't just about money. The Forest Project employed hundreds of thousands. Formerly unemployed youth found themselves trained in forestry management, product design, and international trade. Villages once dependent on foreign aid now became hubs of innovation, sending out shipments stamped with the words, "Made in Burkina Faso," a phrase that, to the surprise of many, began to command respect on the global market. And here is where the story takes its most shocking turn. The Western corporations that had once mined Burkina Faso's gold for pennies on the dollar suddenly found themselves competing against a new kind of wealth they could not easily exploit. You can dig a mine dry, but a forest, if managed wisely, produces wealth year after year, generation after generation. They realized too late that they could not simply take it away because the true treasure was not just in the products, but in the knowledge, the processing plants, the trained workforce, and the national pride that Traore had built. The pressure began immediately. Offers were made. Multinationals came with contracts promising billions, if only Traore would let them partner in managing the forests. But he knew what that meant. He remembered the mines, the cotton fields, the cocoa farms, how they were all stolen with a smile and a handshake. He refused. And in doing so, he sent a message to all of Africa. We can own our resources, we can process them ourselves, and we can trade with the world on our own terms. By the 5th year, Burkina Faso was not only exporting forest-based goods across Africa and beyond, but was also sharing its expertise with neighboring nations. Mali, Niger, and Guinea began adopting similar programs, creating a Pan-African forest wealth network. Together, they negotiated trade deals directly with Asian and South American nations, bypassing the Western middlemen who had profited from African resources for decades. The forests became more than an economic engine. They became a symbol of African sovereignty. International visitors came to see the golden forests of Burkina Faso, expecting to find some rare mineral. Instead, they found lush greenery, bustling factories, and communities where children learned forestry economics alongside mathematics in school. And then came the final stroke of genius. Captain Traore announced that a portion of the forest wealth would be invested into a Pan-African Development Fund, a fund not controlled by foreign banks, but by African nations themselves. This fund would finance infrastructure, education, and healthcare across the continent, free from the strings of Western loans. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why the world is restless. This is why headlines in the West speak of controversy and concerns when they mention Traore. Because he has shown, beyond doubt, that Africa does not need charity. Africa needs control. And when we take control, when we turn our forests into gold, we prove that our liberation is not just possible, it is inevitable. So, to those listening across Africa tonight, hear this clearly. The forest is not just trees. It is our history, our future, our dignity. Traore has lit the path, but it is up to us to walk it. Protect your land. Learn its secrets. Build industries that belong to you. Trade with the world, but never trade away your sovereignty. Because if a small nation like Burkina Faso can turn forest into gold, imagine what the entire continent can do when we unite. The West fears this vision because they know it means the end of their centuries-old grip on African wealth. But let them fear. Let them watch. Let them witness the rise of an Africa that will never again be plundered, never again be divided, and never again be silenced. My friends, the shocking truth is this: the gold was never in the ground. It was always in our hands. And now, we hold it firmly.
As reactions continue to pour in from across the continent, one thing is clear. Africa is demanding respect, sovereignty, and accountability. Was this just a diplomatic misstep or a deeper sign of shifting global alliances? We'll be watching closely. If you found this story important, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real, unfiltered African news. This is Talk of Africa 360, telling the stories that matter.